And good morning, everyone. I'm Jackie Clement, CEO and Executive Director of the Fair Media Council. And I want to say thank you so much for joining us this morning. This workshop is part of a series that we do to improve communication skills. Everyone is welcome, no matter how advanced or even if you have no experience in communications. These workshops are really meant to help you fill the gap in between your skill set, as well as show you some things that are up and coming, so that we make sure you're at the cutting edge. And that is what brings us to today and today's speaker. And before I introduce him, I want to give a little shout out to our sponsors who make these workshops possible. And that is St. Joseph's University and Northwell Health. So we thank them very much for supporting these efforts. And to that end, today's workshop is creating promotional reels, which you see on social media, which are super popular right now. And to lead today's workshop, I'm going to give you to Jody Fisher, who is the founder and CEO of Jody Fisher PR. He's also a very, 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 very old friend. So old, we don't talk about how far we go back. But Jody started out in news. You'll notice the radio voice. He used to be a reporter for WCBS News Radio here in New York City. And he switched over to PR. So Jody has one superpower, which is he knows how to tell a story, and he knows how to tell it so that people want to listen to it. And in that regard, he's been creating some fabulous reels on social media. So if you don't follow him, I would encourage you to do so you can check out what he's all about. And on that score, I'm going to turn things over to Jody now, and I'm going to step out, and he welcomes your questions. So please don't be shy. Okay. So Jody, take it away.
Thanks, Jackie. I appreciate it. And thanks for having me today. It's always fun to talk to the Fair Media Council. And it's always fun to help people learn about how they can tell stories better, because you hit it on the head. That's what I like to do, is tell stories, work with clients and work with organizations to tell stories, because as PR people, we are storytellers more than anything else. And we need to tell stories to the news media that we want to get to tell our stories. So we need to be good storytellers if we're going to ask other people to tell our stories. And that's what I do. I'm going to jump into a little presentation here. Forgive the technical aspects here, but I'm going to jump into a presentation that I put together for this this webinar. Let's just make sure we got it right. There we go. All right. Hopefully everyone can see that the way I'm seeing it. So thank you again. And for those who don't know me, my name is Jody Fisher. I'm the CEO of Jody Fisher PR. We started our PR agency just a few months ago, have worked with a number of different organizations and agencies up to now, and primarily serving clients around Long Island and in the New York City area, but I also do work nationally as well. As Jackie mentioned, I started out as a radio reporter back in the 90s, or as the kids say, the late 1900s. Heard that on TikTok the other day. Had to clutch at my AARP card. But I've also worked at a number of different agencies, most recently at Austin Williams, which is an advertising and marketing agency based in Hauppauge, and helped to build their PR practice. I now continue to represent those clients that I was working with them, as well as now building my own client base. So really an exciting time for me, and I'm excited and grateful to do that. Just a little bit about background again about what I do. When we talk about public relations, we talk about basically media relations. So it's storytelling, talking to media organizations. Think of Newsday, think of News 12, think of New York City TV stations here geographically in our area, as well as all the local Long Island outlets you might be familiar with, Long Island Business News or the Patches or the hyper-local community papers. But we also don't limit ourselves to that. We reach out to the national outlets. We reach out to regional outlets like the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. It's funny, some people call them national papers. Some people call them regional papers. Obviously, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal has a focus on New York area news, but they also have a focus on national news. So pick it and call it what you like. But you see there, the goals of a public relations campaign is to secure publicity, but also to grow awareness. and to demonstrate your strengths and expand your leadership. That's what a PR campaign does. And that's what a social media campaign can be part of a larger public relations campaign. And we do everything from earned media to podcasting to social media. I actually run a podcast of my own, which is really more of a hobby than anything else. It's called the PR Podcast. And if you're interested in that, you can find that on your favorite podcast platform. But it's all about relationship building. It's all about relationship building with the audiences that you want to reach, to inspire them to do the thing that you hope that they do, whether they work with you, whether they buy a ticket to your business or patronize your business, or they donate money to your nonprofit, or they buy a ticket to your museum, or whatever it is you want them to do, whatever that call to action is. Publicity and a public relations campaign that includes all of those items on the right-hand side of your screen are designed to inspire that action. Just a sampling of some of the clients that we've worked with. You can see there's higher ed, there's financial services, there's healthcare, there's professional services, there are nonprofits in there, there's real estate and architecture, a wide variety of types of clients that I've worked with and over the years. And again, helping all of these folks to tell their story through the various means that they have at their disposal to tell. And in terms of where we've worked, it's really all over the map, primarily, like I said, in the New York City area and the Northeast. But I've worked across the country in local markets, Los Angeles, yes, went to Alaska as well, but down in the South, across the Midwest, you name it. The belief is that every story needs someone to tell it. And that's what PR people do. That's what we do through earned media. That's what we do through social media. That's what we do through podcasting. That's what PR people do, is we tell our clients' stories, and every story really needs someone to tell it. And that's what our job is. So let's get to what we're going to be talking about today, which is social media, and specifically creating reels and video content for your social media feeds. I'll put this disclaimer on it. I don't profess to be an expert. I am learning, just like I think anyone else on social media would admit that they are learning. Things change every day about social media. Algorithms change, new tools crop up, ways of communicating crop up, ways of telling stories crop up. So I by no means am an expert here. I'm simply passing along the things that I do, that I've seen work from my clients. And hopefully you can take away some ideas that'll maybe work for you as well. Let's just do a little zoom out to 30,000 feet and talk about social media then and now. Social media is still pretty new, at least in my mind. Again, I'm clutching at my AARP card there. But social media has evolved since the way back when I first got on Facebook when I was at St. John's University. And if you recall, in the early days of Facebook, you had to have a .edu email because it was originally built for college students. And so I got on there and I was checking out this new thing called Facebook. What seems like light years later, we're looking at things like Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and you name it down the line. But back then, I think a couple of hallmarks of what social media was. Number one, I think it was absent of curation. It was very spontaneous. And if you remember, and I go back in my social media posts, it was things like what I'm having for lunch today. And if I remember correctly, I think even the Twitter prompt, when you went to tweet something, it said, I am doing, or I am ... ellipsis. And it was meant for you to complete the sentence, to say what you were doing right now, or what was in your world right now, or what was happening around you right now. So it was very absent of curation. It's really meant to be spontaneous and almost experiential. By that nature, it was also very organic. I'm not even sure that selfies were a thing when social media started. It was more about first-person observations. And it was very focused on the individual and on experiences that you were having in that moment. It was meant to be linear. It was meant to be what was happening moment to moment, hour to hour, day to day. Fast forward 20 plus years, and we've seen a lot of changes. Number one, primarily, and this does not take a rocket science to figure out, there's been a huge shift to video. Everything that you would see on social media now is video. I think you see far fewer and fewer static photo posts, and everything has got to be dancing across your screen. So just in terms of how you're starting to think about social media, if you're not thinking in terms of video, you need to start thinking that way. Social media has also become, I think, far more intentional. Whereas it used to be organic and absent of curation, it's now very, very intentional. Lots of specific messages that are coming across from highly evolved brands, highly evolved campaigns, with specific calls to action, specific prompts, and not just things like links, but actual calls to action. And taken to their best, they can be motivating. Taken to their worst, they can be destructive. And we all know what we're talking about when we say that. Posts are also very highly produced. Even the simplest of posts. People have so many tools at their disposal on social media platforms. I think of TikTok specifically. You can drill down into TikTok and find all types of tools to edit, to put sound in your videos, music in your videos, to overlay voiceovers onto your videos, to duet and stitch, and we'll get into some of those terms, but to pull in, putting GIFs and put in animated videos and screenshots, all kinds of things. Even, like I said, the simplest of videos that are maybe not even from brands, but from individuals, can still be highly produced in a way they weren't back when social media started. And finally, I think that social media has become a platform for sales and conversion. Setting aside the reality that you can actually buy things through Instagram or TikTok, simply putting in links or driving people to other places within social media or off the social media post. Social media has become a huge driver of sales and a huge opportunity for conversion. And if you need proof, here's a sample of 3 of my social media posts from 2012, 2016, and 2023. That was one of my, on the left there in 2012, that was one of my first Instagram posts. Now, by today's standards, that is an awful post. It's terrible. I think that's 6th Avenue looking down towards Radio City Music Hall. It felt very artistic when I was doing it. But that's what social media was. Fast forward a few years, and there's a photo of my wife and I at a St. Patrick's Day parade on Long Island. But you can see drilling down on the technical aspects of that photo. The photo is sharper. It's more intentional with what's in the photo. It's turned around, I think, around 2015 or so. We started getting used to selfies and turning around the camera and pointing it at ourselves and seeing ourselves in the photo. I think that's something that social media evolved. And then fast forward a few more years, and there's a photo of a TikTok video that I posted just last week, where I at least have now become very used to looking into the camera and actually speaking to the camera and recording videos of myself. So you can just see how, in the course of 11 years, social media has really evolved. And this is just my personal feed. This is not any kind of brand feed at all. Before I proceed, I wanted to give the opportunity for anyone, if they had any questions. I'm going to try to toggle back and see if there's any questions in the Jordan mentions, yeah, remembering the early days of Instagram. So glad for the growth. Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, and thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it. Just wanted to check and see if anyone else had any more questions before I cruise on through to the next portion. If not, we will go back to our screen. Let me make sure that I can do this right. Hold on. We're going to stop screen sharing and go back in again. Sorry for the technical aspects of it here. I'm driving my own show today. There we go. Let's go from current slide. Okay, great. So let's talk about the creation process and how you're creating your social media posts. I think when you're starting to think about Do I launch a social media channel? How do I improve my social media channel? How do I improve my presence? How do I talk more to my customers or my stakeholders? How do I either start it or get better at it? I think there's a couple things that you need to do. First, you need to outline your goals. And by that, I mean, you need to choose your platforms. You need to, with so many social media platforms out there, and on the right there, a visual representation of just a few of them. And some of those you might not even think of as social media platforms, but all of those have a social sharing aspect. So I think that's why they're considered social media platforms there on the right. But you need to choose your platforms. And by that, I mean, you need to choose where you think it's most effective for you to communicate, where you think your audience is. And if you can use data, great. If you have established channels, you can see your follower and friend count. You should really be utilizing, especially if you're doing it yourself, you should be utilizing the platforms that are most active. You should be fishing where your fish are. But you should also be using the platforms that make the most sense for whatever story you're trying to tell. So Facebook is kind of the OG, right? It's the original social media platform. It's better for some brands and worse for others. The kids refer to it as your grandma's social media platform. Nevertheless, I think there are some benefits, and there's actually been a resurgence on Facebook recently. I've read that especially Facebook groups are really surging again, and Facebook groups can be very, very effective to target a message to a specific segment of society. So you may want to check out Facebook for that reason. Twitter, I think, is all about volume and attention. It used to be linear. It's not linear anymore. I miss the linear nature of Twitter personally. But Twitter is all about volume. It's all about conversation. It's all about interaction. It's really not about creating videos or things like that. They show up, but it's really not for that. Instagram and TikTok is, obviously. And they're kind of, the sort of the fighting siblings, if you will. They're always trying to one up each other. And Instagram, obviously owned by Facebook, by Meta, should say. But Instagram and TikTok is really where the videos are going to live. YouTube, I think, is video nirvana, long form video, some terrific channels on there, and you can learn just about anything you want off of YouTube. Although TikTok is becoming that as well, especially with the search function. LinkedIn, obviously, for professional content, and Pinterest can really be effective for niche and for makers. If you are a crafter or a maker, if you knit, if you're a mechanic, if you're selling something or transacting something that has a maker aspect to it, I think Pinterest is a wonderful place for you to be. But regardless of what you pick, you need to tell your unique story. You need to establish credibility. You need to convey truth, right? This is who you're going to be after you decide what platforms to be on. This is who you're going to be on those platforms. And really important, those last two, to appreciate your audience, to interact with them, and to invite their participation, because social media is just that. It is social. It is not meant to be screaming into the void and always broadcasting out. It's meant to broadcast out and then interact with the people who interact with you. And it's also meant for you to go and to support other channels just the way you'd want people to support yours. So make sure that you're inviting that participation. It's and the content that you want to create is what my friend Peter Shankman calls thumb-stopping content. And picture yourself sitting on your couch, as I am, before dawn with my cup of coffee, and I've got my phone in my hand and I'm scrolling. I'm using my thumb to scroll up and scroll up and scroll up. What makes your thumb stop? Great content. So be thinking about that, creating thumb-stopping content. After you've picked your platforms and after you've committed to what you want to do, you need to plan your path. You need to understand your goals and your audience, setting clear objectives. In other words, you got to decide what you're going to do. Do you want to increase brand awareness? Do you want to drive traffic? Do you want to generate leads and sales? Understanding that while we said it was a conversion platform, It's not the primary thing. You don't want to be selling all the time. You don't want to say, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing. You want to be offering maybe 80% of the time, and 20% of the time you want to be transacting something. And make sure that you're aligning your content with your goals. You also want to plan your content. Once you've picked your platform, you want to be creating an editorial calendar. You want to be storyboarding. You want to be scripting and visualizing. You don't want to be overly spontaneous, waking up every morning going, what am I going to plan? What am I going to post today? You want to be as intentional as possible in creating these social media posts. Next, you just got to press record. Sometimes you can think about it so much that you get caught up in a creator loop, and sometimes you just got to press record. So let's talk a little bit about how you create the content, and I'll talk a little bit about what I do. We all have these great TV studios in our pocket called our phones. I use an iPhone, but you are able to use other phones if you want to. You should be using a camera with the best lens as possible. There are a couple things that will sabotage a social media post. One is blurry video. Two, and probably more important, is bad sound. If you can't hear something, if it's muddled, if there's background noise, if there's wind, if you can't hear something, you'll turn it off right away. So it needs to be properly shot, properly lit, properly mic'd. And light, sunshine is your best friend, although don't stare right into it so that you're squinting. But otherwise, maybe an outside bright sunny day and you're just slightly standing in the shade is terrific. And the lenses on the phones love sunshine. They love light. They suck it up. And you look fantastic when you are out in a brightly lit space. So make sure that you're nice and brightly lit with the light shining on your face. Don't be in shadow. Before you press record, make sure you turn and your face is nice and brightly lit. If your face is the thing that's going to be there. And if it's not your face, it's your subject's face or whoever that is, make sure you've got plenty of light on your subject. The microphones in the phones are also really terrific. I also use a lavalier microphone, which is like those little clip-on microphones that you put on your shirt. They're $20 on Amazon. They plug into your phone, maybe with a dongle or something like that. But it is a completely essential piece of equipment. If you do nothing else, if you're going to be shooting a lot of video, unless you're right up close to the phone, get yourself a good microphone. Like I said, it's $20. Invest in it, carry it around. You've always got it. When you're shooting video, make sure that you're shooting for the platform you want to shoot in. Most social media, because we hold our phones vertically, most video is shot vertically. However, if you're shooting for something like YouTube, think of the screen on YouTube, it's horizontal. So you want to be shooting horizontally if you're specifically shooting for YouTube, or if you're shooting sometimes the way I do for TV purposes. Again, think of your TV screen, right? It's a horizontal aspect ratio. So you're going to hold it horizontally if you're shooting for those media. Otherwise, you're shooting vertically. So make sure that you're shooting properly because the social media platform will crop your image depending on its specifications. So shoot for the platform that you're going to be shooting on, whether vertical or horizontal. Editing, like we said at the top, you can use music and transitions and filters and graphics, and the list goes on. And you can get in there and just go down a total rabbit hole on any platform to jazz up your video. Recommend that you don't jazz it up to the point where it's confusing. I think of that scene from Ready Player One, if anybody knows that movie, where the ad executive says, "We figured out that we can sell 80% of the screen fill 80% of the screen with ads before we induce a seizure." And it was meant to be a joke, but quite frankly, I think it's kind of serious. We all kind of bug out when we see too many things just popping in our visual scene, in our visual spectrum. Hashtags and repeats. Jackie wanted me to mention this. Definitely use hashtags, and you can Google and find what hashtags make the most sense for your particular brand or subject matter. You can also go on a hashtag generator Or you can go inside the platform itself and find out what hashtags are either trending or what hashtags are most appropriate for the content that you're creating. So do a little investigation and figure out the best hashtags, because hashtags will program algorithmically where you show up in other people's feeds. Also, one final note on creating the content, especially on Instagram. Right now in the platform, you get the opportunity to choose, this is on TikTok too, choose the screenshot or the cover image that is going to be used to represent your video in the feed. On Instagram, I have taken to actually uploading a still photo that sits in people's feeds. So when they come across it, it's the photo real quick, and then it goes right into the video. And in my profile feed, there's the static image of that photo that I've uploaded to represent the video. And then when you click on it, you go straight into the video. Basically, what you want to do in choosing a screenshot or a cover image is going back to that concept of thumb stopping content. You don't want to put up an image or have an image in the feed that isn't, I'm going to use the word attractive, but isn't engaging, that isn't enticing or intriguing, right? You want to put something up there that's going to suck people in. YouTube does this as well. When you scroll through YouTube and you see a bunch of images, you may see an image with some graphic overlay or something like that. All that's meant to be intriguing, to make you to click on the video. So you really want to give some thought to the screenshot or the cover image that you're using to represent the video in the feed to make sure that you're being as engaging as possible. Just want to jump back here real quick and see if there's any questions or comments before I continue on that. I don't see any, so let's jump back in again. I wonder if I can just click that. No, I can't. So I'm going to stop my screen and I'm going to go back in one more time. Thanks for bearing with me here, everybody. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, I'm getting better at this. Did it come up? Maybe I'm not getting better at this. Let's see. Share the screen again. Let's go to there and share that and play from the current slide. There we go. All right. So we got through that. Once you've created and you've posted, you want to measure your success. And some statistics there on the right-hand side. But basically, you want to engage with your audience. You want to be responding to comments. You want to comment on other pages. That is something that is really key in lifting you up inside of any social media algorithm, is commenting on other people's pages, liking other people's stuff. Again, it's the not screaming into the void approach to social media. So you want to be engaging with other people. And then when people come to your page and engage with you, you want to engage with them. We'll do a quick detour here on negative comments on your page. If someone comes on your page and says something that's negative, I think it's best to, as long as it's level-headed, I think it's best to engage with them rather than to delete. Now, if someone comes on your page and just bombs you with something that's either completely inappropriate, and run it down, it's racial, it's violent, it's inappropriate content, you should report it and delete it. But if someone's just sort of sparring with you, or maybe just asking a question, it's an opportunity to engage with them. And if they disagree with you in some way, to change their mind, or simply to show that you can talk with people who don't necessarily share your opinion or your approach. So wouldn't just delete any kind of negativity, would definitely delete things that are out of hand, but don't bother. But I would keep the other stuff. You also want to share, track in Google Analytics, and you want to track against your business metrics. Your social media posts, just like your public relations campaign. It's not a straight line to your cash register, but it should show some results on the business side of what you do. So if you have something that's particularly engaging someday, or you've engaged in a social media campaign that's designed to drive traffic, you should see your traffic bump. And if it doesn't bump to your website, then you got to figure out why. What were we doing wrong? You got to realign the campaign. So that's my whole thought on how to create the content, the things to keep in mind as you're creating content. But let's get started, right? I think the main thing we all need to do is just do it. Thank you, Nike. But really, you've just got to hit record. You just got to start. Create your profile if you don't have one already. Start by posting something you're comfortable with and play with the tools that are inside those different platforms. Like I said, you can go down a rabbit hole with all the tools that are sitting inside of any individual social media platform. And you just play with it. It's terrific. I would suggest moving from photo to video. I think everything, like we said, is video these days. You want to experiment with your hashtags, which ones work, which ones don't. Maybe create a couple of hashtags that are specific to you, but that are general enough that people can latch on to. You also want to do something called cross-posting, which is you want to post your content from one social media platform on another social media platform to kind of get a synergy going. However, there is a tick in the algorithm, and really it's the feud between TikTok and Instagram, where I've read that Instagram will downgrade or de-algomerize. Is that a word? But you get my point. It'll de-emphasize photos that have TikTok metadata in them. So when you record a video, there's this coding in the background called metadata. And if Instagram sees you post a video that you downloaded from your TikTok page and post on your Instagram page, I've read that Instagram will downgrade that and suppress it. I don't know if it's true, and Instagram's never said that it is. So what I recommend is that you record a video on your phone and then post it independently to TikTok and then independently to Instagram. Now, that means you're probably going to have to edit it twice because it also puts the little social media stamps on it, the TikTok stamp and the Instagram stamp. But it only takes an extra 10 minutes if you're doing it straight out of the platform. And if you become a little better at posting, you just get more efficient. But you should definitely try to cross post. And you shouldn't be afraid of posting similar content on multiple social media platforms of yours. I'm a believer in that people should find you where they're looking for you. So don't not post something on Instagram because you posted it on TikTok. What if your customers are looking for you on Instagram? You want them to find you there. And if that means you have to post the same thing in two places, so be it. You can mix it up just a little bit to make it specific to the platform with things like GIFs or audio or captions. Captions are great, by the way. But you can definitely cross post. And then you want to make sure that you're also, again, commenting and engaging with people who come to your videos and going to those pages and commenting on their videos as well. You also, like I said, want to get creative. There's lots of scheduling tools you can use. There's Hootsuite, Buffer, Metricool, you name it. And you can see the little graphic there. That's a Hootsuite page where it just sets up like a calendar, and you can actually advance schedule posts of yours. Now, sometimes you can and sometimes you can't, depending on how spontaneous you are with your feed. But I would say that to the degree, especially if you're running a brand page, to the degree that you can schedule posts, I think you should do that, because you can sit down for an hour and record a bunch of stuff, schedule a bunch of stuff, and then take your hands off it for a little while. They can be pricey. Many of them come with subscriptions, but you want to at least investigate that and see if it works for you. Photos, you can use filters and effects. You can use GIFs and text. And again, just keep experimenting. And video, you can also pull content from podcasts. And this has been on my mind personally. Like I said, I run a podcast called the PR Podcast. And something that I've been meaning to do that I'm going to start experimenting with is actually playing my podcast on my phone, screenshotting it, and pulling an audio clip with a video and posting that on the PR Podcast social media platforms. because I think that can be very effective in terms of displaying your content, displaying the thing you're talking about, and then driving people back to the page where they can actually subscribe and follow the podcast. But you can also use tools like Canva and CapCut and even iMovie. I mean, iMovie comes loaded on your Mac if you use a Mac, and you can use lots of other video editing software. Again, play with these things, experiment with these things, see what works best for you. There's no wrong way to do it other than not doing it. And so I think that's the most important thing that you can remember. And as far as audio goes, TikTok especially gives you the opportunity to overlay audio onto your videos. Audio can have the effect of elevating your posts in a social media feed. And when you click on add audio, it'll give you lots of options. You can use trending audio, you can use different genres of audio. And I would recommend using audio, even if you turn it all the way down so it doesn't conflict with your script or anything that you're saying. I would recommend using audio in most, if not all, of your videos. One, it can fill in some dead space if you have any dead space in what you're talking about. Two, like I said, it has the effect of bumping you up in the algorithm. And that's really what we're all going for. I'll open it up to questions if anyone has any. Let's see. I'm going to slide over here and we'll go down the list. Thanks, Jordan, for being here. Appreciate it. Thomas Davies, Instagram has said officially on their creators account that TikTok metadata and watermarks will hurt your post in the algorithm. Right. Exactly what we said, right? So screen recording and then editing in the Instagram app is a good workaround. It absolutely is. Thomas, you're right. And like I said, what I do is I actually record something on my phone. I'll record it in the camera app. I'll have the raw video and then I'll upload it to TikTok. I'll do an edit there. I'll upload it to Instagram. I'll do an edit there. I will then download it from Instagram and post it on Facebook. Actually, I'll just double post it. I link the two accounts, right? Because Facebook and Instagram, same thing. Same company, Meta, owns the same. So they're not going to downgrade the video because they're the same family, right? But TikTok is not. And so Instagram will downgrade a video from TikTok that's posted directly, downloaded from TikTok and posted on Instagram. Let's see. Any other comments here? Don't see any. Diane, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Wonderful. All right. Well, if anyone doesn't have any other questions, we can round this out. I'll do a quick plug. If you want to find me on social media, I am at Jody Fisher on all the socials: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm still working on my YouTube channel. Got to get that going. But we also have the PR podcast, like I mentioned. That's a podcast that is on your favorite podcast platform. So please check us out there: Apple, Spotify, Google, etc. Jordan, you're mentioning here that you had a question above. Let me just roll this down. Cover image. Is text good to add the cover image of a reel, or does it depend on the subject matter? Hold on. Let me see if I understand what you're saying. Is text good to add to the cover image of a reel? Oh, I get it. Well, let's use that YouTube example, right? When you go on YouTube and you scroll videos, there are a lot of videos that have words, right? That have words, but you get my idea. That have a lower third or that have some kind of graphic on the screenshot, not unlike Jody Fisher PR right there. That is meant to engage and draw people in. So I think it can be helpful. I think you should do it to the point, as long as it's not confusing, as long as it's not distracting, as long as it doesn't seem annoying or selly. And that's the one thing you do want to avoid, is seeming selly on social media, because you want to build your audience and offer them value before you ask them to buy something or engage in something. So I think you can add text to the cover image. I think mixing it up is probably the best advice that I could give. But I don't think it's a bad thing. Don't think it's a bad thing. Thomas, thank you for listening to the PR podcast. Appreciate it. And yeah, like I said, that's on your favorite podcast platform. And if you are a PR person and you want to be a guest on the PR podcast, please drop me a line. You can contact me on any of my socials or on email at Jody at jodyfisherpr.com. We take guest submissions as well. There are 52 shows a year. We need 52 guests a year. If you're someone who is engaged in the news making process, you can definitely pitch yourself to be a guest on the PR podcast. So if we don't have any other questions, we're going to round this out. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate it. Thanks for having me here.